North Carolina. We are here in the Spectrum Center, which is obviously where the ACC men's basketball tournament will be played in March. For our dais, we've got microphones throughout the room. I would imagine we're going to keep our mic holders hopping during this session. Folks in the room, if you would, please identify not only yourself, but your agency, and to which of our personalities you'd like to ask the question to. That way we can get our cameras trained either left or right. So that said, we'll take it out into the room. Who wants the first question? Bob Holliday, second row, to our right.
Bob Holliday, WRL.com. This is a question for the players, and Coach, you can jump in if you have more to add to their answers. What did you guys learn about the state of the team's readiness for the season from the scrimmage with Villanova?
Let's start with Cameron.
I think there's definitely areas that we can improve. I think there's definitely some spots that we did well in, but we see the areas that we can improve, and we've addressed them. And I think going forward, we know how to correct it, and we know that we can correct it, which is a big thing. There's definitely some areas, rebounding defensively, even offensively, that we can improve on. And it showed us a lot about ourselves, and I think Villanova is a team that plays with great energy and intensity. And it's the intensity that we're going to have to match and even do better than whenever we step out on the court for games that matter.
Coach?
Yeah, like Cam said,
Coach too.
like Cam said, we went up there and we saw that there were areas where we could improve. But also in those areas, we showed ourselves that we could do it. It's just a matter of us doing it consistently. And I think we definitely watched the film and we saw what it is that we needed to work on, and we addressed those things, and we'll work on these next 2 weeks going into the first game.
I don't have anything to add. They said that pretty well. I have one question. Where the hell is Edith Flaming Amy's?
Wilmington.
Wilmington? Flaming Amy's? Good.
Got that out of the way. Next question. For the players from the podium here, what's it like coming to this building knowing that you are back here again in March and that there's already a bit of a history with this club here? Kenny?
That was actually the first thing that I said to Cam when we got out of the car. I talked about our last time being here, how we ended our season here. We know what happened here, and we know that we have some history now, and we just use that as motivation in practice and in the preseason. Coach definitely hasn't let us forget it, but we use it as fuel and motivation to get back there and not let it happen again in that same situation. So it's definitely something that we won't forget.
Cameron?
Yeah. When Kenny and I stepped out of the car, we could kind of feel. I still felt there were some emotions left over in the loading dock from exiting the game against Texas A&M in the tournament. So we weren't even thinking about ACC tournament or what's upcoming. I think that sting of the tournament was still kind of there, and Coach hadn't let us forget that much over the past couple of days, past couple of weeks, and it's definitely motivation going forward, because that's something that you never want to have in the first place, let alone happen 2 times. So it's something that we can learn from, and it kind of pushes us in a little bit different of a way.
Coach, from the podium, I'm curious, you chuckled when he said that you don't let them forget, but there's a fine line between keeping it as a motivation and then just tucking it away and let it be gone. How do you strike that balance?
You'll have to ask them if I've done it successfully or not, but I don't think you should forget things that you have an opportunity to learn from, and I think we didn't play as well as we wanted to play against A&M. They did a better job than we did, but I don't think you should just let those things go. I think, as Kenny said, use it as fuel, use it as motivation to play better. As Cam said, remember that and try to play better when you get out there. But we've been beaten a lot in the NCAA tournament over the years. We've won some as well, but I think every year you should remember those things and try to make sure you don't make the same mistakes. And last year I didn't think we defended around the rim very well. We didn't score around the rim very well. Both of those holes in our game really showed up against A&M, and so we've got to try to correct that.
Let's go back to Bob Holliday to our right, second row.
Coach, how are the big men progressing? What are your thoughts about the 5 position at this point? And obviously it's too early to tell how much you're going to play the 5 and how many times you may go smaller, but what do the big guys have to do to meet your satisfactions?
Well, part of the question there is really easy. I have no idea how many times we'll go big or small because we've had 3 weeks of practice. We've got 2 more weeks before the first game, and then things change during the course of the season as to how successful you are, whether you want to stick with what you're doing. Sometimes it's driven by some guys playing great, some guys playing poorly, some guys got a sprained ankle or whatever. But so I don't know that part of the answer. The big guys, Brandon Huffman's had like 2 practices, all of them that he's been fully healthy because he's had some knee problems. Sterling Manley it looks like he's playing bigger, which you like to have length around that basket. I still wanted to work about 7,433 times harder, but I think that he has improved. Walker Miller's improved. Garrison Brooks does more of the little things that coaches appreciate, and doing it on the defensive end of the floor and being more aware than the other guys have. But somebody needs to step up and say, hey, I can do this, and not only say it, but do it, prove it to us out on the court. If one of those guys steps up and proves it to us out on the court, I will be more comfortable. And sometimes that's good that the coach is more comfortable. Sometimes it doesn't make any difference. But I would like for one of those guys to step forward, and or all of them collectively. It's hard to go in a game and say, okay, I don't know which guy's going to do it tonight. So you give player A, B, C, and D all a chance, and A, B, and C sneak it up. You know, by the time D gets in there, it's too late sometimes. But I would like for them to step up and be more consistent with their effort and with their concentration in those 2 areas more than anything.
We'll go to our right at the aisle here, 4th row in.
Dana O'Neill with The Athletic. Roy, as someone who's been in this game for a bit and I think is viewed as a steward of the game, if you will, what is your responsibility as you look at kind of the tenor of things right now with the trial and everything like that, in terms of addressing that and perhaps helping people understand what's going on with it all?
Danny, it's really hard. That's really a good question. I've stated what my thoughts were, that it's a world that I don't operate in. I've never had a parent ask me for anything. I've never used an agent, never used a shoe company, don't do those kind of things. And I think a very intelligent person one time told me there's a difference between being indifferent or having a lack of knowledge. And my problem is I have a lack of knowledge about those things. I'm not very indifferent about it at all. I think that there's some major problems, some problems that need to be worked out, some things that need to be changed. I don't think you can legislate morality. I don't think you can legislate honesty. But what we have here is a very big problem. That's a national problem. That's in the news. That we've got to be aware of it. But it's hard for me to understand. I mean, it's like somebody were to, if I were to ask you guys, how do you do a drug deal? Or how do you take care of our nuclear armament process that we have? How do you do something in nuclear sub? All of you guys are very intelligent. It doesn't mean you're not intelligent, but you have no idea how to do all 3 of those things. I would think that you wouldn't know how to do all those, but being indifferent is something I'm not. I think that the problem we have is something that has to be addressed. If I'm able to mentor a college coach, if I'm able to mentor a player that wants to know about the college game, I would say that our glass is really half full. I think there's great things going on in college basketball. I'm a coach that thinks there's great things going on in summer basketball. I had a person that was on one of those committees. I said at the Peach Jam, I said, sit right here with me and watch the game. And at the end of the game, and it was a great game. Okay, one team scored 5 points in 1 second and won the game. And people were excited and everything. I said, now tell me what was wrong with what you just saw. And he said, absolutely nothing. Now, I didn't plan the game was going to be that good, but I just wanted to see what he really thought was negative there. But there are some things, and we've got to be aware of that and try to address those situations. If we do have penalties and somebody's found guilty of things, then I think those penalties should be really harsh. Again, I'll go back to this thing. 1906, I think, I'm close. It's when the NCAA was formed. There was some bad things going on in college football recruiting. President Roosevelt says we need somebody to oversee this, and that was when the NCAA came out. We've had time periods in our game, whether it's football, basketball, in the sports world. We've had some times where some really negative things have been going on and times that there haven't been, and I think this is one of those. but I don't think that I'm trying to put my head in the sand and ignore it.
Staying on the aisle, right side, 7th or 8th row down, gentleman in the pink shirt.
Chris Trinkle, Daily Tar Heel. Coach, can you just talk about how Sean May has grown from being an All-American player to now a prominent member of your coaching staff?
How he's grown? Yes, he has. Kenny and Cam will remind him of that when he gets back. He's not exactly my man's playing weight, okay? No, he's turned the page. I've said this many times, Sean May was one of the 5 most intelligent guys I've ever coached. Sean played the 5 spot for us, and he could have run any position in practice, in any drill. He knew exactly what to do. In fact, I'll say it and challenge these 2 guys, he could have played the point guard or the wing in any dummy offense and knew what to do. Again, one of the 5 most intelligent guys I've ever coached. In his senior year, I thought he was the best player in college basketball, or junior year, excuse me, his last year. And but he's turned the page on the playing and wants to coach and wants to work with guys that he thinks that he might be able to help. And he's a positive role model for him. He's helped put a banner on one end and his jersey's on the other end. So he's been very successful, and I'm very, very fortunate to have him back with us and love having him with us every day.
We're going to stay on the aisle, but we're just going to move just a couple of spots forward to the right.
Hey, Coach. Frank Maloney, Who's Talking, Fox Sports 910 in Richmond. Curious what your thoughts are on the increase in the conference schedule to 20 games in the future, and pros and cons, if you will.
That has been an issue that I've been very outspoken about. I didn't like the way it was done. I asked, one time I said to some TV folks, I said, would you rather have us against a team that's last place, really struggling, just have no players, or would you rather see us play Kentucky or Kansas or Arizona? And they said, well, of course those games. And I said, well, we go to 20 games, I'm not going to play as many as those games. Last 4 years, our schedule by the tournament committee has been number 1, number 6, and number 1 the last 4 years. So we played a very difficult schedule, and heck, this year may be the most difficult schedule we've ever played. But in reality, we moved to 20 games. It's really a 21 game schedule because we have the ACC Big Ten, and we're not going to do away with that, and shouldn't. But it does make it harder. You can't play Golden State Warriors one night, the Boston Celtics the next night, and Portland the next night in college, because you have to have some time where your guys gain some confidence. I used this as an example earlier today. I had 2 first-year players one time at Kansas, and they were both very gifted, very highly rated, very important to our program. First game of the year, we played Georgia. Hugh Durham was a coach who was a great defensive coach. He backed off those 2 youngsters by 12 feet. They didn't make a shot. The next game, we went to Indianapolis and played Bob Knight's Indiana team, and they backed off those same 2 guys 12 feet. Now, much different than the 2 guys sitting up here with me. I could not get those guys to shoot for 3 months. These guys are shooting 3 seconds up here. But with those kids completely lost their confidence. And so I think there's some times for building confidence, there's sometimes for building team chemistry, and it's hard to do that if you're playing those kind of teams all the time. So I'm not in favor of it. Coaches had no voice in it whatsoever. And, we go to the spring meetings, there's no talk about it, and then all of a sudden in July we're doing it, so that's what happened.
Back to Bob Holliday to our right, 2nd row.
Bob, you got to be getting tired, son.
Question for Ken. This is your 2nd year in the program, and from what I understand, you're healthier now. How will the experience and the improved health enhance what you're able to do on the court this year?
I think it'll go a long way for me. Going into a new program last year, adjusting to everything that comes along with that, and then having to sit out a couple of weeks before getting back, and then having to jump in really close to conference play was a little bit different. So this year I feel like I'm just on a better foot. I feel like I have more knowledge of the system, more knowledge of what coach wants, more knowledge of what my teammates want to do. And with my body feeling a little bit better, I can step out on the court each day, focus on basketball more than kind of the ache and pain of the day or anything like that. So it's just a little bit of a burden off my shoulders, a little bit of a burden off my back, and I'm looking forward to getting a heavier portion of non-conference and getting my feet under me towards conference play this year.
Down the aisle to your right, the gentleman behind the pink shirt.
Keaton Eberly, Carolina Connection for WCHL in Chapel Hill. Coach, what are your initial thoughts over North Carolina Senator Rick Gunn and Jameson Alexander Jr. just talking about their open letter to the NCAA expressing their displeasures over the Hurricane Florence charity game?
Steve Kirscher is going to appreciate you guys because y'all throwing me some lobs. You know, I saw the letter from Mr. Emmert, the president of the NCAA, which is the hardest job in the world as far as I'm concerned. But, you know, it was frustrating. The response was frustrating. It's still frustrating. Fairly close. I can't give you the exact date. I may be able to go back and figure it out on my calendar. But after the hurricane hit, I'm trying to think of some ways that we might be able to do some things. And last year we did something very simple, very small. We raised a little bit of money, and I was trying to think of a way to make a lot of money that we could give to the hurricane victims, because I'm in Eastern North Carolina quite a bit, and I see what's going on. I have a house in Wilmington, and so I said, you know what went on down there, and you watch TV. I watched the Weather Channel for 3 days, and more of those 3 days I ever have in my life. So I saw what was going on and tried to figure out a way to make a lot of money. And the two areas that were hurt more than anyone, and not the only ones, but hurt more than anyone, was North Carolina and South Carolina. So I called Frank Martin to see if he would be willing, and he jumped on the media and said he would be willing to do it. And so we applied for the waiver. And the fact of the matter is, when our compliance girl was on the phone, they said, we don't want you to apply because we're not going to say yes. We're not going to permit it. We've made a decision we're not doing any waivers. And so then I made the statements at my press day that I was really sad that it happened. And someone immediately called back and said, well, you didn't ask for a waiver. Come on now, let's not play games. The reason we didn't ask for a waiver, we were told not to because it wouldn't do any good. And then I hear about the senator sending the letter, and the response was back that every school had 2 opportunities. You can play 2 scrimmages, you can play 2 exhibitions, or 1 of each. Well, we already had an exhibition scheduled with Mount Olive. We do it to teams in our state so we can give them some money to help their programs. Every year I've been there, we've played an exhibition game against somebody in our state. We already had that scheduled. We didn't want to take money away from them, and I didn't necessarily think that would raise a lot of money, like I thought North Carolina and South Carolina would, particularly if we did it in this building. We also had a private scrimmage scheduled. We had a signed contract for a private scrimmage, and it was bringing in some other state that was not as heavily damaged as our state was. So again, a waiver means that somebody can get a waiver. You don't have a waiver program if you're not going to ever give anybody a waiver, but there was a waiver program. And so I was disappointed that the answer was North Carolina, South Carolina could have made some changes, and they had all the opportunities in the world. Well, the fact of the matter is, we wanted to do it quickly. And when it was really in front of everybody, it was some situations that people were still living through. And so I was disappointed by the answer because, and like I say, I think he's got the toughest job there is. But you're talking about some people who had tremendous tragedies going on in their life. We were not going to gain any advantage on State or Duke or Wake or Virginia or Florida State by playing that game. We were trying to make some money to help some people. That's the bottom line. And yes, you can say we could have canceled Mount Olive, we could have canceled our scrimmage and tried to get it, but I really thought that we could have done that so quickly, getting North Carolina and South Carolina involved, that it was a home run. And again, if there is a waiver process, you know, I don't believe you have to treat everybody the same. Just treat everybody fairly. And I think somebody, pick a state, somebody in Arizona or Idaho or something that sees Weather Channel, see what's going on here, I don't think it would hurt them.
We're going to see if we can squeeze in 2 questions within 5 minutes to our left about the 6th row.
I promise my next answer won't be as long.
That wasn't a comment, Coach, but thanks.
Ross Martin in South Carolina. Coach, John Swafford said today that they're going to kick off the season with an ACC conference game and play a couple games before Christmas. Thoughts on that kind of change to the ACC conference slate?
That doesn't bother me. If we're chosen in a year to be one of those, it's going to be the same for everybody. You still play 18 this year. So it doesn't bother me. I think it's wise. I don't think we'd be doing it if people didn't think it was a good idea.
With that answer, we might be able to get 2 more questions in. We've got it to the right side, about the 7th row back.
Mary Dunleavy, WRAL TV. This one's for Coach. When was the first time that you saw Luke May play in high school, and how has he changed and grown since then?
Well, the first time I saw Luke play in high school was, I'm guessing, his sophomore year. But he'd been in my basketball camp before that, so maybe in the 7th and 8th grades, the first time I'd seen Luke. I went to that game just to see Luke. His body's gotten 100% better, or at least 99% better than it was then. He's much stronger, leaner, quicker, bouncier, all those kind of things. The other part I would say has changed is whenever that was, his sophomore, junior year, the kid has spent an unbelievable amount of time and sweat to be the player that he is right now. He's one of the better players in our game, and it's all because of sweat.
Last question to the gentleman with the Daily Tar Heel down the aisle to the right.
Coach, this is for you again. So obviously three-point defense was somewhat of a struggle last year. How have the newcomers come in? Have any of them impressed you as perimeter defenders so far?
Well, the new guys, I think Kobe's really good defensively and has a chance to be really good. I think Leaky is very good defensively and has a chance to be really good. Nasir is so athletic that he can be really good as well, and he works really hard. So I'm hopeful that all three of those guys can be very good defenders for them. And you're right, I said something about scoring around the rim and defending around the rim. The other thing was a negative for us last year was guarding the three-point shot. And so far, the chances that we've had this year, we haven't done a much better job of it. in our secret scrimmage.
North Carolina, thank you. Good luck this year.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it. Folks, Syracuse is due up next.